You're listening to Cowboy Logic with Jason Forby, a message of grace and hope.
All right, everybody's good? So let me just read Romans 4. This is the Passion Translation, right? The promise and then declaring things and changing someone's name and power in what you say. There's power in your words, right? There's power in what you say and declare, and it's kind of continuance. But Romans 4 says this. I'll start in 16. This is the Passion Translation, all right? It says, the promise depends on faith, so that it can be experienced as a grace gift. And now it extends to all the descendants of Abraham. This promise is not only meant for those who obey the law, to those who enter into faith of Abraham, the father of us all. You see how we're all included? You got it? It's all of us. We're all included, whether you come in by trying to obey the law, but also to those who enter into the faith of Abraham, father of us all. That's what the scripture means when it says, I have made you the father of many nations. He is our example and father, for in God's presence he believed that God can raise the dead and call into being things that don't even exist yet. Against all odds, when it looked hopeless, Abraham believed the promise and expected God to fulfill it. Against all odds, when it looked, everybody say looked. It looked hopeless. Abraham believed the promise and expected God to fulfill it. He took God at His word, and as a result, he became the father of many nations. God's declaration over him came to pass. Your descendants will be so many that they will be impossible to count. In spite of being nearly 100 years old when the promise of having a son was made, his faith was so strong that it could not be undermined by the fact that he and Sarah were incapable of conceiving a child. Incapable of conceiving a child. He never stopped believing God's promise, for he was made strong in his faith to father a child. And because he was mighty in faith and convinced that God had all the power needed to fulfill his promises, Abraham glorified God. So now you can see why Abraham's faith was credited to his account as righteousness before God. And this declaration was not just spoken over Abraham, but also over us. You got it? Also over us. For when we believe and embrace the one who brought our Lord Jesus back to life, perfect righteousness will be credited to our account as well. All right, let's read Francois' version. I like it a whole bunch. This is the Mirror translation, the Mirror Bible. Let's start in 15. Is everybody okay? This is Romans 4:15, the Mirror translation. You can download it on an app or something, or it's kind of a new. It's not even all the way finished yet, but I love it. So it says this: the law system is bound to bring about disappointment, regret, and anger. Can you believe that's been in our Bibles the whole time? The law system is bound to bring about disappointment, regret, and anger. If there is no law, there is nothing to break. No contract, no breach. Therefore, since faith sponsors the gift of grace, the promise is equally secured for all the children. The law has no exclusive claim on anyone. Faith is our source, and this makes Abraham our father. When God changed Abram's name to Abraham, he made a public statement that he would be the father of all nations. Here we see Abraham faced with God's faith, the kind of faith that resurrects the dead and calls things which are not as though they were. Faith gave substance to hope. When everything seemed hopeless, the words, "So shall your seed be," conceived in him the faith of fatherhood. Abraham's faith would have been nullified if he were to take his own age and deadness of Sarah's womb into account. All right, you got to get this part. Abraham's faith would have been nullified if he were to take his own age and the deadness of Sarah's womb into account. His 100-year-old body and Sarah's barren womb did not distract him in the least. He finally knew that no contribution from their side could possibly assist God in fulfilling the promise. While he had every reason to doubt, he did not hesitate for a moment, but instead, empowered by faith's persuasion, he continued to communicate God's opinion. He continued, golly, I don't even have to add anything to this, do I? He continued, regardless of what all of the common sense said, regardless of what all of the normal, regardless of all that, he continued to communicate God's opinion. What have we been talking about? Power of what you say, right? So would it be possible that Abraham's faith be nullified and him not receive the promise? Apparently it would, or else it wouldn't have been in the Bible, right? It said his faith was not nullified because he no longer counted his age and all that stuff that was against him, right? He didn't pay any attention to it. He just believed God, continued to communicate the opinion of God, right? And so he saw the miracle. Now here's really what I want to talk about, all right? It's like there's because how many know? How many know? We talked like last week, like we started declaring, we understand what prayer is now. We can say things, right? Whoever believes what he says will happen, right? Isn't that what Jesus said? We read that. Where was that? Mark 11 maybe. Whatever he says, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes whatever he says will happen. Believe whatever he says will happen. Well, we haven't really known and believed that what we says will happen, right? But now that we know what we says will happen, we believe in that, right? It's like we bless our city. You remember that? We've been blessing our city since we've been here, blessing our county, right? Hey, did you guys notice they're putting new roads in here? Because it's blessed. It's blessed here because we said so. You see what I'm saying? It's like all this stuff is just happening. Why? Because we've said so. We believe that what we says is happening, right? So we declare ourselves healed. We declare all this stuff, right? We speak. We believe. All that's going on, right? We're all okay with that. But now, how many know just because you says something one time, like, okay, we sang the song, I'm blessed. Now, when's that going to happen? You know, I mean, it's like, here's what I want to talk about, and I'm going to try to get this out. It's like Abraham received a promise from God. His name was Abram. He changed his name to Abraham, which means I'm going to start calling you what I want you to become. And so, okay, here's the promise. Abraham's 100 years old. Sarah's old, and she's been barren her whole life. And God shows up and says, you're going to have a son. And everything in logic says, no way, that's even possible, right? And so, but it says, Abraham believed God. Here's what I want to get at, right? Because here's where I think we lose the fight is, okay, it takes 9 months for that baby to be born. From the time it was spoken, the promise was given, 9 months had to go by. All right, come on, we can read a verse and we think, well, God promised Abraham, next thing you know, he had a baby. We can read that in like 3 verses and think, man, that was fast. And then we're frustrated because ours isn't fast. 9 months went by. Here's what I want to say. What about the 9 months? You know, what if we're in the 9 months thing? What happens then? If we don't know about the 9 months, we'll think it's not working. I looked up the word. You know, one of the fruits of the Spirit, King James would say long-suffering. Long-suffering. It's in Galatians 5. I don't like long-suffering. I don't even like that word. I wish they'd translate it something else. Other translations say patience. Patience, that's better, right? I mean, patience is good, right? Jacob said, Lord, I'm going to pray for patience, and I need it now. But I looked up the word, and I can't pronounce it, but it means this. It's the word, I'm not even going to try. But it means this, waiting patiently, the amount of time that goes by before frustration sets in. Is that a terrible word or what? It's like long-suffering would be like, one example is like somebody could be short-tempered. You know, short-tempered, right? Versus long-tempered. That's what the word is. It's like, so the amount of time that goes by before someone becomes frustrated. You got it? So fruit of the Spirit is that now a longer time can go by before frustration sets in. Like 9 months? Like what if God just said, okay, here's what I want you to start believing, and I want you to say it, but you're not going to see any evidence of any of that until 9 months later. I wish that was explained right at the beginning, don't you? Because I would say, there's this frustration sets in that says, okay, I'm going to declare I'm healed. By His stripes I'm healed, right? We declare it. We speak that. We believe that. It's the prayer of faith. I'm healed. You're healed, right? We're all healed. But then it's like, but I'm not. What the heck, right? Come on, have I got the right bunch, or y'all get everything immediately? I want everything immediately, but I don't always get everything immediately. And understanding this part of that thing is what's going to help us. I remember when I first started learning this, it's been a long, long time ago now. So I started learning this, right? And so I say, declare, I'm healed. I'll never be sick again in my life. I'm saying that. I believe that's the will of God for me. Now, did that automatically start happening all of a sudden? So then here, I say, well, every year you get the flu, or every season, all this kind of stuff. And so like once a year or something, you'd get this cough or cold, right? Now listen, this is where I was at the time. I'm not necessarily saying this is exactly the way I would do it now if I was in the place, but this is where I was, all right? This is where I was, and it worked. But I'll say, okay, you get this cough, right? You just cough, cough, cough. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody's had that in the winter or whatever. Kids bring home, whatever, all this stuff, right? You get this cough, and sometimes it's worse than others. You're like trying to get rid of this cough. And then when you get up during the day, it's not too bad because you're upright. But then as soon as you lay down at night, it's like that thing, and you just cough, 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 right? You know what I'm talking about? So then I'm getting this understanding. I'm saying, you know what? No, I'm not putting up with this. I'm healed. I do not have a cough. Right? So I'm saying that while I'm coughing. I'm saying it while I'm coughing. Cough, 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 cough. I do not have a cough. I am healed. I'm blessed. The curse is broken over my life. There's no more sin on my record. It's illegal for me to have a cough. Cough, 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 cough. Like what? So if you were around me, you would have said, that Jason's lost it. He's cuckoo. He's saying he don't have a cough while he's coughing. That's nuts. It's about like Abraham going to town saying, hey, how are y'all? My name's Abraham. Nice to meet you. What he's saying is, I'm a father of many nations. The name means I'm a father of many nations. He goes to town with no son, announcing to everybody, I'm a father of many nations. Do you see how cuckoo that is? So I'm saying, I do not have a cough. Cough, cough, cough. I do not have a cough. I do not have a cough. I do not have a cough. I'm healed. I know who I am. I'm a child of God. I sing the song. I'm blessed. The curse is broken over my life. There's no sin on my record. I've been redeemed. It's as if I never sinned. I've never partaken of the wrong tree. It's illegal. It violates the law of God, the kingdom of God, for me to have sickness and disease. Come on, right? But here's the deal. I didn't say it one time, and then the first time I coughed, said, well, it didn't work. Didn't work. That's a bunch of nonsense. It didn't work. I don't believe that no more. No, I'm just hard-headed. If the cowboy translation of the Bible came out where it said long-suffering, cowboy would say hard-headed. Hard-headed. I'm not bowing. I'm convinced. I'm convinced. And so I do not have a cough. I do not have a cough. Now you say, well, that's crazy. And I don't know, that thing usually lasts a week or more, 10 days or something, And so you can say, well, it didn't work. Well, I just kept with it. I was just hard-headed. Tunnel vision. I do not. I never backed up off of it. And so maybe it lasted 5 days. Well, that's better. 5 days is better than 10 days. And so I count it as victory. So then the next, however many months, next year, this winter season comes by again. Here comes that thing. Oh, cough, lay down at night, cough, can't sleep, all that. Oh, no. I beat you once. I beat you again. I do not have a cough. Same thing. I'm healed. I'm blessed. I'm full of life. The curse is broken over my life. This time, 2 days. Come on, I'm just talking about the 9 months. Next winter, come around. You ain't getting on me. I know who I am. I've whooped you twice. You ain't getting on me. And then now it's 30 minutes. Next winter, never even shows up. Now what happened? What happened? See, faith can't even be faith until there's a reason that shows up. It's James. It's like what James says, count it all joy when you fall into this, I'm going to put it in my own words, when resistance comes at you. Count it joy when resistance comes at you, because only until resistance shows up can you really be convinced that you actually believe something. Let me just put it in Jason's own, all right? Can we just go off on Jason for a second? It's like you say you believe something, but until you prove it, it's just a theory. So don't get all upset and frustrated when you actually get the opportunity to prove it. Because only until resistance comes. Look, you can say you're healed and healthy and full of life and never again be sick, but you don't know that you actually believe that until the opportunity comes for that thing to be tested and pressured. It's not God giving you a test. No, it's something happening inside of you. It's not some thing out here going on. It's like, well, okay. No, it's when you become convinced. It's when the part of you that doesn't even know what you know actually convinces the rest of you that you really do believe what you say you believe. Come on, we've all met people that say they say all the right things, but their life looks like hell. They say the right things, but they don't actually believe it. I'm talking about this process that we get to take part in is where everything that we think we believe and say we believe actually gets tested and proven, and now we're actually convinced, and everything around us responds to what you really believe. I'm not even saying it's you beat some enemy or whatever. Whatever. I'm just saying it's something that happens in me. I became convinced. I passed my own test to say, well, I don't have a cough. I don't have a cough. Did I have to beat that thing a few times and overcome that before I actually believed that to be true? Now I'm so convinced. I'm beyond convinced. If there was a word that was higher than convinced, I would use that word right here. I'm more than convinced that I'm never going to be sick. It's not the will of God for us to be sick. I'm not just going to say it one time and then when sickness comes knocking on my door, I'm going to fold up and say, well, it didn't work. I'm going to say, come on in. I needed you to show up because now I get to whoop you and prove to myself and the whole world and everything that's happening around us that I actually do believe this stuff. When we actually become convinced and everything around us is convinced that we're convinced, that's when things happen. That's when things, why we see results? Because I'm convinced. It's like, now I went through the thing, hard-headedness, It's like, now you can start out something small like a little cough, or a headache or what. We've seen people healed of migraines and headaches and all kinds of stuff that you would think is not a big major deal. There's no difference in any of it really, but you can start small. Let's start fighting something small and say, okay, I'm going to learn this. Do a little cough or cold or headache or whatever you want to pick. It's like I saw this wherever he said, whoever says to the mountain, be moved and cast into the sea, believe that in your heart and don't have doubt, it will obey you, right? I thought, well, how am I going to move a mountain? I thought, well, I don't know if I'm starting out in the place where I can move a whole mountain or not, but at least I could start chucking rocks. Let's start chucking rocks. And once you start chucking rocks and it gets easier to chuck rocks, next thing you know, you can move boulders. And so it went from a cough, now it goes to something bigger. Now it goes to whatever. He just whooping cancer off people. I'm as convinced that cancer has to leave people as much as I am that I don't have a cough. And because I'm convinced, there's something just happens in you that produces. It just works. It's like I'm a believer. Signs follow believers. I'm not a theory that hasn't been proven. Come on, you got me? I remember one time one of my buddies over there at the barn. We've seen so many miracles. It's like crazy. I can't even keep track of them all. Should have been writing them down probably. But so my buddy, he got where anytime he was around me, he couldn't take he had to take diabetes, shots and all that. Well, he'd been doing that his whole life. He's an older guy, and so, we'd go eat lunch or whatever. We'd work hard and all. He'd have to take a shot because he's going to eat something, right? So then when he got to hanging around us, he was with me side by side every single day. Now, I'm a believer. I'm not telling you this is because of Jason. I'm saying I'm just a believer, and God's proved this in me and done this. But when he was with me, he couldn't take that medicine because he was normal. He had to figure out, look, he'd get ready to go eat. He'd take a shot before he eat because he knew his blood sugar was going to go up. But he was already normal, so when he take the shot, it was bringing him way down. After lunch, he'd be way down. I said, you got to quit taking that shot. When you're with me, you don't have diabetes. So he's seen a lot of stuff. So one time his daughter was in the hospital for something, I forget. They seen a lot of stuff. They knew who they were. They knew what to believe. But now the daughters, not so much. They thought we were all crazy and they're religious and they don't want no part of anything we do, And so my friend, he goes up there, lays hands on his daughter and does everything that we know to do, And so, and maybe doesn't see anything immediately, For long he calls me. He says, you at home? Yeah, I'm at home. He said, I got to come by and see him. So, all right, come on. He gets there, and he's kind of a little bit distraught. He said, I went by there, did everything I know to do. I laid hands on her, and so we don't know what's happening. I said, you did what you know to do? It's working. It's working. He said, I don't know. They don't want to. I said, I'll tell you what. So at the time, she was at Heron Hospital. At the time, I'd been to Heron Hospital like 5 times to go pray for people. And all 5 times, one of them was my buddy's dad. My buddy's dad was, 100 years old or something. He was in the hospital and he wanted to die. They called me and said, will you come up here and pray for him to die? Well, I guess if that's what he wants. So I went up there and prayed and he died. So I still count that as an answered prayer. I still count that as a victory. And then it's like 4 other times. 5 times I'd been to Heron Hospital, prayed for people. All 5 times completely healed, died. But 5 for 5. I was 5 for 5 at Heron Hospital. You know what I'm saying? So I said this. Now listen, I'm convinced, right? So he comes out there. He says, daughter's there. And I prayed and laid hands. I said, I tell you what. You go back up there. You go back up there right now. If she ain't healed when you get there, I'm coming up there. And if I come up there, I'm not just getting her. I'm going to get a bunch. I have a perfect record here in hospital. They don't want me up there. Now what's happening? There's something working because I'm convinced. Because it's not a theory for me. Come on, you got what I'm saying? So away he goes. He gets up there. She's healed. Come on, I'm saying, let's enjoy the 9 months. Let's be, excited about the opportunity to prove that we believe. And let's just be tough. I mean, we're cowboys, right? It's not like, well, okay, Jason said there's power in what I say. Didn't work. No, let's just say. Let's say and then just be hard-headed about it, and it's the way it is, and it's not my responsibility to know how much time or whatever else. I'm just going to be convinced. I'm not giving up on it. I'm not changing my stance. Jesus said it like this: if your eye be single, your whole body be flooded with light. What the heck does that mean, your eye be single? He's saying if you only look in one way, if you're only seeing things one way, say it the way you see it, and that's the way it is, and leave it. And if pressure comes, thank God for the pressure, because now I get the opportunity to prove that I really do believe what I believe. I know, we wish it was just automatic, don't we? This is why faith and even confession and has kind of gotten a little bit of a bad rap, because people will take any of the things of God and get flaky. And so people have seen flaky people and say, okay, I can have whatever I say. I'm going to say I get a new Cadillac, and then you didn't really believe that, or you know what I'm saying? It's just, we're not going to be flaky. We're just going to be convinced and not back up when resistance comes. You got it? We're not going to be babies and pout because it doesn't look like it's working. Thank God it looks like it's not working. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Come on, you guys with me? It's what James is saying. Thank God that there's going to be a little time frame here where it actually looks like it's not working. Because if you can make it through the time frame of when it looks like it's not working and you come out the other side of that thing and you're still convinced, boom. James says if you last that thing, then you'll be complete and perfect. Come on, you got it? Let me read that thing. My fellow believers, when it seems as though you are facing nothing but difficulty, see it as an invaluable opportunity to experience the greatest joy that you can. For you know that when your faith is tested, it stirs up power within you to endure all things. What if it was never tested? For you know that when your faith is tested, it stirs up power within you to endure all things. And then as your endurance grows even stronger, it will release perfection into every part of your being until there is nothing missing and nothing lacking. We got to allow that thing to be tested and to actually be excited about the fact that it looks like it's not working. So we have two responses, right? I'm just going to put it plain, Jason's terms. There's two options, looks like to me, when it looks like it's not working. Come on, does that suck or what? It looks like it's not working. That really seems to me that that's not a desirable thing, for it to look like it's not working. And that dadgum James, he says I'm supposed to be happy about it. It looks like it's not working. So when it looks like it's not working, I have two options. I can just say, well, it didn't work. And I can back up off that and prove that what I thought I believe, I really don't believe. Because if you have to have what you see to validate what you think you believe, then you don't really believe it. See, one of the opposites of faith, a lot of people say the opposite of faith is fear. Maybe that's right. I think there's another opposite to faith, and that'd be sight. Sight. We live by faith, not by sight. So if I only believe what I think I believe because I can see that thing, right? So I can either say, it ain't working, and I just back up off of it, and no, I don't really believe what I believe. Or I can say, you know what? I don't care what it looks like. Just because God made the promise 1 second and made this declaration, there might be a gestation period of 9 months before I actually see evidence of what it is that He said. Come on, you got what I'm saying? So I'm saying, okay, when it looks like it's not working, option is to back up off of it and say, I don't know, it didn't work. Or to say, it's working. I'm going to continue to say and to continue to communicate what God's opinion is, regardless of what it looks like. How long you good for? How tough are you? How long can you endure that thing? How long can you confess what God says, even when what it looks like will say otherwise? Could you go a long time? Could you go? I mean, my goodness, Joshua and Caleb went 40 years with them knuckleheads in the wilderness. Man, I hope I don't have to go 40 years. I really don't like going 9 months. But if I do, I do. The longer endurance, the more I become into perfection. Come on, you see what I'm saying? Two options. Fold up and be a wimp. Come on, you can go on and read further in James. It says this, that a man tossed to and fro like waves, he can expect to receive nothing from God. If you'll get in there and be hard-headed and say, I don't care what it looks like, I'm healed. Come on, do I got any crazy people in here? I'm blessed. I'm healed. I don't care what it looks like. I'm not moving from this stance, however long it has to take. And when you become the person that says, I'm going to believe this regardless if I ever see it. I'm going to believe this if it takes 10 years to come to pass. I'm not moving off of it. I'm going to believe this regardless of how. I don't believe it because I see it. I believe it because I'm convinced it's the will of God, and my believing it empowers Him to produce it in my life, and I'm just going to communicate His opinion. I'm going to say what God says. He says I'm good. He says I'm blessed. He says I'm free. He says I lay hands on the sick and they recover. Come on, you don't know you even believe that until you lay hands on someone and they don't recover. You almost have to have unanswered prayer to actually, I'm mad about it. Come on, it has to not work in order to get to the place where it works. So let's just be happy about it. You want to? Come on, have I got the right bunch? I'm telling you, if we get over this little hump, if we break through this little thing of resistance and get out to the other side, oh my gosh, look out. Become dangerous. Now when you speak, things move. When you declare things, things happen. The whole spiritual realm responds to those who are convinced. All right, we're going. Everybody good?
Please follow and share this message. And for more information, visit srcowboychurch.com.